The 113th edition of the Roy's Boys podcast starts right now.
Carolina basketball family is the strongest there's ever been, there ever will be.
Nate Humphrey hands King Rice the ball. Pushes into Hubert Davis. 8 seconds. Davis trying to get free. Over to Fox. Fox, baseline. Up for the shot. Good! Off the glass! Oklahoma calls timeout, but the game is over! The game is over! Carolina has upset number 1 Oklahoma! And ready on his second attempt. That one is no good! They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He scores!
With 20 seconds left to play, goes back to Michael Jordan. Jumper from out on the left. Good! 63-62, 13, 12, 11. Georgetown with one timeout. Fred Brown looking. Oh, way to Worthy. Worthy 5. The Tar Heels are going to win the national championship.
Carolina with foul. He takes the timeout. They're out of timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul. Brown gets it into Williams. Here comes Williams front court. Williams on the drive. Gets it back out to Head. Long outside shot. Short rebounded. It's over! Carolina has won the national championship! And how about them Tar Heels? They are the national champions!
The Tar Heels are the national daggum champions!
You competed. And that's what it takes to win big-time games. You've got to compete. You do it with your brain, and you got to do it with your heart, too. And that's pretty doggone good.
From QCBroadcasting.com, this is the Roy's Boys podcast with your host, Josh Marlowe. Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of the Roy's Boys podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services, and today we are moving on from Duke and getting ready for Tuesday night's game in Winston-Salem as Carolina will hit the road and travel to take on Wake Forest. Buddy, this is always normally the toughest game to play of the year, win or lose, because you're coming off such an emotional high from the Duke game. Carolina got 2 days or 2 full days off between the game. Duke only got 1 full day off. Any concerns about Carolina's ability to get up and be ready to play tomorrow night against Wake Forest?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's some. The other thing is I think also they're going to look at this as probably their best chance to win a game the rest of the year. So maybe that's going to give them a little bit more motivation. Because let's be really honest. Whoa! But what I'm saying is can we both agree that Wake Forest is the worst team left on their schedule? I mean, because we don't play Miami again, right?
Yeah, it's either them or little brother NC State.
Yeah, I would still lean with just. I mean, I know that NC State just is not going to get a lot of respect, and rightfully so. I mean, we beat them earlier this year, but this Wake Forest team is not good. Let's just leave it at that. In a down year in the ACC, this team is still really bad. We pretty much all expect that Danny Manning is going to be gone after the year. I like Danny Manning in general. I thought he was good when he was at Tulsa, but there's just not enough there for them to keep him around. And so Carolina, I think, if they go in with that mindset that this is their opportunity to come out and win a game, if they can build off that momentum, I compared it in the recap that we did to the game against Virginia Tech. Well, after that Virginia Tech game, they reeled off 2 straight wins because, let's be really honest, they played well. They fed off of what they did well in that game against Virginia Tech and carried it over into the next 2 games. I think that's kind of what Carolina has to do here. They've got some winnable games coming up if they play the way that they played the other night, and they've got to take advantage of what they did the other night and gain some confidence back because, as we heard in the postgame, there really isn't a whole lot of confidence with this team right now, and that's something that's got to change if they're going to win games down the stretch.
Yeah, it really helps that Wake Forest, as you mentioned, not anything spectacular. Identical record as Carolina, 10-13 overall. They're 3-10 in the league. Carolina is 3-9.
Yes.
So they've played one more. They have one more loss. Pretty identical. They don't score a lot of points. 72 points they score, which is 158th in the country. They give up 73. That's 271st in the country. They put 4 guys in double figures. They're the name that everyone's going to know going in the building, Brandon Childress. He's their leading scorer, 15 points, 4.5 assists, 3 boards. This team lacks experience. Their average experience on this roster is 2 years, so they're a young group. And they lack size. They've got 2 players 6'9" or taller. I think that is where you start the game plan for this game is they don't have the size to compete with you. The easy and the obvious offense to run is through Armando Bacot and through Garrison Brooks for 40 minutes.
We've been saying that all year.
Whoa.
There we go. We've been saying that all year. I had taken a sip of water over here and forgot to turn my mic back on. But, yeah, no, we've been saying that all year. They did it against Duke. Thank goodness. They went through Garrison at times. And I think that's the other thing is finding the balance because that was what was kind of lost. And that's the reason why Carolina still struggled to win games when Garrison Brooks and Armando Bacot were the focus on the floor was because then there were no options up top to be able to take over once they were able to start double teaming on the block or pushing the guys off the block down low late in games. Now, with Cole Anthony back on the floor, you would think that there's at least a chance that he's going to be able to have those moments where he's able to take over and sort of, keep the defense honest. Don't let them, get into that routine of going down and doubling Garrison, going down and doubling Armando if he's having a good game. That's where Carolina's got to be able to execute in this game, and I think they will be able to. I'm that guy that thinks, if we're being real honest here, Carolina is the more talented team, even with where they're at with the guys that they'll have on the floor, and I don't even really think it's that close. Wake Forest is just really not that good of a basketball team, but again, this is one of those games that you have to win. Look at what you've done so far this year and the losses that you have on your schedule. You have lost to a Georgia Tech team that will not make the tournament, a Clemson team that will not make the tournament, a Wofford team that unless they find a way to win their conference tournament, which right now they're not the favorites, they will not make the tournament, and possibly a Pittsburgh team that will not make the tournament as well. Boston College in there, that's the other team. They're definitely not making the tournament. So Carolina's they've really struggled in games like this where going in, you feel real confident, and I don't know if it's just that they are expecting to win these games and the other team comes out more motivated and finds a way to beat them, because I feel like we've talked about that throughout the year, that this is just not a team that can show up and win based off of talent, because there's a lot of guys that are injured, and the guys that are playing out there for them aren't as talented as we're used to having back there. But it's something that Carolina's got to get figured out if they're going to win this game, because this has another one of those games. It's on a Tuesday night. It's in their place. It's going to be a sleepy game, and Carolina's got to be ready to go.
Yeah, and for Wake Forest, a program that's dying to be relevant, they fall into the mold of, Carolina's down, but a win over them is a good selling point for a bad year for them. They do some things rather well in the ACC play. They've made the most foul shots and made the most free throws. They rebound the ball defensively, second best in the conference. They're third best overall in ACC play in rebounding. So even though they lack size, they rebound the ball very well. They've scored the third most points of ACC teams or in ACC play. They just porous defensively. Opponents are shooting nearly 50% from two-point land in ACC play. Their three-point defense is good at 35%. But that's about it.
Yeah,
Everything else they do defensively, not good. The thing they do best offensively is get to the foul line. So what this game's going to do is just they're going to challenge your Focusedness. Are you going to be focused?
Ooh, that's a nice new word.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's even a word.
No, focus. You could just go with focus.
Focusedness. Your attention to really just being able to play defense without fouling. Cole Anthony couldn't do that Saturday night. Cost Carolina an upset of Duke. That's where this game is going to be. And the environment, like you said, that's about as spot on as anything you've said maybe in your entire life.
Wow.
That place is never really hopping, and especially a Tuesday night.
Oh, it's like my house on a Friday night,
Yeah.
not hopping.
Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. There will be more Tar Heels in that building than there will be Wake Forest fans.
Definitely.
Not saying a whole lot. But yeah, it's a weird game. It's not like in the 90s when Wake Forest had Timmy Duncan and Randolph Childress, that they had dudes that could compete with Carolina, and when you went to Wake Forest, it was a pretty good environment. Now, ever since really Dino Gaudio left after they fired him, this is what Wake Forest has been. They've never been able to get over the hump. Danny Manning was a guy that I thought was going to elevate Wake Forest back into really where I was starting to think that Wake Forest would be what Virginia was becoming, which was a team that was going to compete to win the ACC. They were going to be a national competitor again. That just quite simply hasn't happened. It sucks because I'm a guy that loves reading about the Big Four and how it built college basketball to a certain extent back in the 60s with the Dixie Classic. Wake Forest was a big part of that. Billy Packer went there and his bad attitude self. So they've got some dudes. Bones McKinney, coach there after playing for Carolina. They've got history, just never really translated into wins outside of the Tim Duncan era and especially under Danny Manning. This is just really a hard game to talk about. I'm going to be brutally honest. It's the first game after Duke. You're 10-13. Garrison Brooks may not be able to play because he got poked in the eye. I mean, there's there's most years it's a little bit easier to come on here and talk about the day after or the game after the Duke game. A lot of times you're still playing big-time games. These games matter. Carolina right now, you're vying to get not to the NCAA tournament. You've got to impress the NIT committee. The not invited tournament, the not impressed teams. That's what you're vying to go play for at 10-13, 3-9. And so I can't pick Carolina. So yeah, I think this podcast, by the way, went straight downhill.
This has faded really quickly. I don't really know what's what. I mean, you're asking me if I know a whole lot about Wake Forest. I mean, you've pretty much read all the stats off about them. I mean, have we watched them play a game this year? I don't think we. There's nothing appealing about watching them play because it's that simple. They're really just not a good team. I mean, at this point, we've known for probably about a month or two now that Danny Manning's gone. That team, just from the start of the season, you could tell they lost. Who did they lose to early in the year? Was it Charlotte that we just could not believe that they got beat by? That kind of shows you where they're at. And again, Charlotte's a program that's kind of up and coming. Ron Sanchez, I think, will get them to be into being a good basketball program at the mid-major level. But Wake Forest should not be losing that type of game. Now, the other thing, the one thing that I think is going to be interesting in this game is, has Wake Forest reached that point where they realize that they're playing for Danny Manning's job? Does that feed into it at all?
If they decide to play for his job, that just shows you their lack of IQ.
Yeah, to be fair, they might have to win out to keep his job.
Danny Manning needs to go back to the group of five, reinvent himself as a coach. And
I agree with that. Mid-major, group of five for college football.
So. I mean, that's the thing. This game is really it's an anomaly. This game has...
This is a game you should win, no problem.
Yeah,
if we're being real honest.
If you want to play on Wednesday instead of Tuesday, you better win this game.
Definitely.
If not, you'll be playing at noon or 2 o'clock on Wednesday in Greensboro.
Potentially against this team.
Yeah. So and with the short bus ride, could be back in Chapel Hill the same day you show up. So,
oh, man.
I mean, we're just going to go ahead and get out of here. This is.
Oh, my gosh.
This has been something. Wake Forest sucks. It's hard to talk about.
Oh, my gosh.
The thing is.
Fully calling them out on the podcast right now.
You know, look, at least if you're going to be bad, at least be bad like Carolina's bad. At least Carolina's bad and they're bad because they can't hold on to a win or something like that.